testosterone is medicine's #1 blind spot.
There is no FDA-approved form of testosterone for women.
I'm not just a little pissed. I'm a lot of pissed.
It is leading to insulin resistance, and it can be tanking your testosterone. We called them sex hormones and then forgot that they float around the whole body and are communicating everywhere. We used to say, be on hormone therapy, but only 5 years postmenopausal. So you get 5 more years of like feeling okay, and then we're gonna just take that from you.
The way that I felt, it was instant. All of a sudden I felt like better than I did in my 30s. I'll just say that.
When you light up a room.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Luminescence. This is a show for women by women, and the season is all about sex, hormones, and intimacy. We are tackling a really critical mission here to resolve this huge knowledge gap around women's sexual health and women's hormonal health. And that leads me right into today's subject, testosterone, the big T. I can already sense many of you out there pushing back on this. Testosterone is for men, and I don't want to get bulky or hairy or whatever. Well, think again, ladies. Testosterone is actually the most abundant biologically available hormone in your body. It helps you wake up, it helps you build muscle mass, it helps you build bone density, and it helps you set emotional boundaries. Basically, you could just say T makes you kick ass like a woman. I am your host, Skylar Grant, and joining me today are menopause expert, Dr. Marisa Snyder, holistic health coach and meditation teacher, Rosie Acosta, and naturopathic endocrinologist and clinical sexologist, Dr. Jolene Brighton. I'm going to tell you, ladies, I really wanted to get a testosterone pellet in my butt cheek.
Ooh, okay.
A couple of weeks ago, looked into it, got some references from some of my friends. I was pretty excited so I could report back to you all from little N of 1 experimentation here. And it was really, really complicated. It was like all kinds of extra testing. It was going to be super expensive. So I'm not here to report back from the front, but I cannot wait for the information I'm going to dig up with y'all today. Marisa, you start.
Yes.
I know that I have heard you say that testosterone is medicine's #1 blind spot, so have at it.
It is. And just like you said in the intro, it is the most biologically active hormone in terms of our sex hormones in the body, more than estrogen. And we peak in testosterone in our 20s. Are we surprised, ladies, right? When we feel the most alive, energized, sexual. We've got tons of energy in our 20s, and then it starts to precipitously decline. By the time we are in menopause, we have 50% of what we had in our peak, in our mid-20s. And what it can look like for so many women is, we're losing muscle mass. We are not having the same workout recovery that we used to. But most importantly, what women tell me is they notice that their motivation shifts. They don't have the same level of confidence. Their cognitive function isn't firing the way that they're used to. They're not noticing as much desire. And overall, they're not feeling like themselves, particularly as we move into midlife and beyond. Now, it's not to say that testosterone is declining in the same way as estrogen or progesterone during that midlife, perimenopause, menopause transition, but it is the missing link for so many women who are struggling with a lot of symptoms.
And is that because it has declined more slowly from your 20s onward, so it doesn't take that same precipitous drop in perimenopause?
Such a great question. The real reason, the root cause is that, as we talked about in a couple of the other episodes, is that this modern day life that we're living with chronic stress and endocrine disruptors and, insulin resistance and even nutrient deficiencies can lend to lower than optimal levels of testosterone, even in our 30s and 40s. So it's not just the fact that it's declining, because that is normal. It's steadily precipitously declining. But
in men too.
In men too, both
right.
of us, both men and women. But we know that there are things that can drive lower levels of testosterone. And so if you are noticing some of the symptoms that I talked about, and there's obviously more symptoms on top of that, those are just kind of the big ones that I hear about from my patients, I would ask for a full panel. I would look at testosterone, which is like total testosterone, free testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, which we've talked about inside of this episode, and take a look at that panel and see what's going on. I'd also run DHEA. And honestly, no hormone is operating in a silo, so it'd be good to look at everything and see what's going on. But what is upsetting, and I think every one of us should just be a little pissed, is that there is no FDA-approved form of testosterone for women.
I'm not just a little pissed.
A lot of pissed.
I'm a lot of pissed.
You're a lot of pissed, yeah. And so even though we make a tenth of what men make, we still need it to feel vital, alive, and energized in our bodies. And what I've noticed from my patients when they start getting on testosterone therapy, they are feeling motivated to start new businesses. They feel motivated to take on a new passion project. They have their desire and libido back. I'm actually on compounded testosterone, and I finally got my desire back. I was like, oh, there she is. And so I was like, oh, there's a nice, and I wasn't actually taking testosterone for boosting libido or desire. I wanted it for the cognitive benefits, kind of the off-label benefits, but I was not mad when it came back online at all. I really feel like we need to do better in this department.
We are tested for testosterone and it is not covered.
No, it's not covered.
Because it's not recommended, it is not covered.
Hang on. The FDA has approved it for a mood disorder that some women struggle with when testosterone goes low, called low libido, right? So we talked about in the other episode where I said, right, there's like not high, low libido, like we're getting that wrong. However, if this is your baseline and you fall below that, and then, but there's a caveat here, it's not just that I'm less interested in sex, it is that I'm so disinterested, I am distressed. It is affecting me mentally. Okay, so I think it's important to frame it in that way because I said in the previous episode that libido is a mood, right? That's what we call getting in the mood. And so this is the only mood that you as women qualify for testosterone per the FDA. Now, if the FDA is listening, if you want to have a conversation, I would love to expand that because we understand testosterone is doing so much more. So there's everything that, Marisa just outlined, but also it is a key integral player in our immune system. And so when we look at women who are losing their hormones, right, we are seeing the decline of hormones in perimenopause or primary ovarian insufficiency, functional hypothalamic amenorrhea. So I want people to understand these hormone conversations that we so often only apply to perimenopause and menopause are actually happening to women at all stages of life with different conditions going on. So, it's important to understand that when your hormones shift in such a dramatic way, we are seeing an increased risk of autoimmune disease, of joint pain and inflammation, musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. When estrogen declines, we upregulate inflammation. Our bones hurt, our joints hurt, our muscles hurt. And then your doctor's like, eat right and exercise, go to the gym. And you're like, but how? I'm in so much pain. And part of that, it's much larger. We could do a whole podcast on just that. But big part of that is immune system dysregulation, which is connected to estrogen, progesterone, testosterone as the primary hormones we've been talking about, but so much more in the system as well. But my question for you is so you said I was doing the gel, so it's not covered unless you actually fit into the archetype of my sexual dysfunction is what the science and medicine call it. I hate that term, but it's what they call it. And it's distressing you.
My primary care doc said there was no way she could prescribe it.
Why?
I don't know. I just asked her.
So, okay, that's a good question. As a patient, if you're listening right now, if your doctor says there's no way I can prescribe it, ask why. If you do not qualify for a DEA license, so I have to have a DEA license, the drug enforcement agents watch me when I prescribe testosterone. And so it is highly regulated. So it's possible they didn't qualify for a DEA license. This was not in their scope, and they should just refer you. It is possible that they have no experience with it whatsoever.
The knowledge gap. She probably doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, and so she doesn't have the skill set to actually do this. Valid reason not to start someone on a medication. I would never listen listen, I'm not over here prescribing statins for people. I'm not working in cardiology. I'm not about to step into that arena. I'm going to make the referral to the expert, which is what you deserve. And then there's just sometimes that people have a bias. They have a bias. I don't know. It is also possible maybe she got in trouble with the DEA at some point. She's like, nah, I can't mess with this.
Like any of those. But yeah, I mean, a bias too. A lot of women, even medical doctors, primary doctors, don't feel like we should be on testosterone because it's such a regulated medication. Mind you, it's a $2.4 billion industry for men.
Yeah.
So, but are men taking it? I mean, are they getting it prescribed?
Yeah. They get it prescribed pretty easily.
Yeah, pretty easily.
So in the same way that like we look at estrogen, we look at testosterone and men. Only now, and some of us are like, oh, estrogen is like, really important. That happens in men, and we can absolutely see like depression comes on. Same thing can happen with women. Like, here's the thing. We called them sex hormones and then forgot that they float around the whole body and are communicating everywhere, and that our brain is rich with receptors. It's why when someone comes to me and they have executive dysfunction, if people have never heard of that before, our executive functions operate from the prefrontal cortex. It's how you plan and execute on things. You can reverse engineer things. I need to get this done, so I have to walk it back. It's how you manage your time. And so all of these things that go into executive function, those can start to falter. This is the ADHD archetype that we absolutely see. And if you've struggled with that for your life, then that's ADHD archetype. We can see it transiently, and this is so important because there's a very misleading term called late onset ADHD, which is not a thing, because what is happening in perimenopause is the neuroendocrine shift that Marisa was talking about is causing you to have the same brain mechanisms that can contribute to ADHD and can lead to executive dysfunction, but it is transient. And we know that within 18 months to 2 years of postmenopause, your brain is going to be back. If you have ADHD, you ain't coming back. You ain't coming back. It's going to persist.
Or it was misdiagnosed when you were younger, or completely not acknowledged, and then when you go into that neuroendocrine transition, it really presents itself.
But
it's
exacerbated.
been there. It's exacerbated.
And then, but let me just ask just one quick chemical question. When this piece, this very, very common piece of brain fog and executive dysfunction that comes with perimenopause, is that mostly testosterone related, or is that just a whole combination of all of these?
So that was my
hormones?
point that I was taking a long time at arriving at. Sorry there, guys. So is that I watch so many doctors chase the estrogen because estrogen is linked to dopamine and serotonin and mitochondrial health, and it is important.
Gray matter and white matter. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of it.
Sure, but I'm going to get to this point, I swear to God, you guys. The point is that progesterone plays a role in GABA. If you want impulse control, you need to have GABA present. When we look at testosterone is often the missing piece that doctors are ignoring and not talking about. Now, anyone can have executive dysfunction and not have ADHD. Those with ADHD have executive dysfunction to the level that it interrupts very quality things in their life, relationships, work, school. It is disruptive, and it does basically it just gets fed rocket fuel once you get into perimenopause, and the coping skills that you once have, you no longer have because of these hormones. But what gets left out of the conversation is that doctors, which I appreciate them now wanting to step into the arena with HRT, but what they think is if I give estrogen and some progesterone, they're going to be fine. But we see that testosterone is absolutely integral to executive function and brain function. And the models for which we actually look at this in women is we can look at what happens in PCOS, in hyperandrogen states. We can look at postpartum, and we can look at those who only a subset. Not everyone in perimenopause and menopause are going to lose their testosterone, but those who then lose their testosterone, and we start to see this dysfunctional pattern. And one of the biggest things for executive dysfunction, so listening to this, you might want to get your testosterone tested, is I can't get started on a project. I have no motivation. I cannot get started, and I cannot follow through. I cannot take it to completion. That is something that, in addition to what Dr. Marisa said, is a sign of testosterone being too low.
Yeah.
Okay, so could I also just ask, as practitioners, as doctors, because testosterone isn't included in the menu of options that you can prescribe, unless you're like going to kind of be like, tell me how bad your sex life is, but is it really bad? But no, I mean, is it really, really, really bad?
Yeah,
Nudge, nudge,
really,
wink, wink.
really,
Like
really
we need
bad.
to pathologize you all the way down to like actually dysfunctional in bed completely in order to give you this medication that you believe as a doctor is actually going to help all of these other systems of the body. But let's imagine that as a doctor, you're not actually trying to like lead them into having to say something that's not even necessarily true.
Yeah, because that's an ethics issue and we're not supposed to do that.
Yes, and you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
For the record, while I'm being recorded.
So would you, as a doctor, say, well, let's test your testosterone? And then one question I have is, if you out there in the world manage to get your testosterone tested, what is the threshold of too low?
So what I want to say, and you probably want to add something to this, is that most doctors are going to test your total testosterone, and I could really care less, okay? So why do I test total testosterone? I test it with the sex hormone binding globulin because I want to know if your total testosterone, you're making it, but your sex hormone binding globulin is elevated, I don't have a production issue. So we produce, I said this in another episode, ovaries and adrenals, primary places. This is why we also look at DHEA sulfate, because that's what's going to get converted. That's going to be your estrogen and testosterone source. This is why some women go through menopause and they're like, it was not a big deal. It was pretty easy. Yeah, tell me you took care of your adrenals without telling me. So I want to know, do we have a production issue and have you bound it up? Or, is what is going on is that you're just not producing it at all. So we're making it, but we can't use it. So the free testosterone is what we want to look at here. And if I see that dipping down one below and I've got symptoms with it, like that's
One below what?
15
One.
nanograms. Oh,
yeah, 1 being the marker. That's the units I use in the lab. So,
but I'm just asking for somebody who's looking at their own labs, because I know there are a bunch of people listening who are like, oh my God, I would so love to get on the phone with one of these doctors. But if they were to look at some labs that were given to them and their doctors maybe not working with them to help analyze what their levels are, like what do you mean? What is one below?
So I can't give
below
you,
1.
Let me say, I cannot give you the units right now because I look at this all day and I'm like, is this one in nanograms or picograms?
It depends. Yeah. Often it's in nanograms per deciliter, but it just depends. And the thing about testosterone, as Jolene broke down, is that we really need to look at 4 different biomarkers when we're looking at testosterone specifically.
So you need
that's
a
where it
doctor.
gets a little
You need a
bit more
doctor, I know.
complicated. And that's why it's so important that once we start a woman on compounded cream or a gel, I'm not a fan of pellets.
Cool. We're going to get into this.
Yeah, I want to talk about this.
Because once you can't remove those. We can't modify
There's
that
no
dosage.
finesse.
So what are the
there's
what
no
are the
finesse
ways?
with
It's
testosterone.
expensive.
What are the different ways in which we can take testosterone? Can you just at least outline those for us?
Yeah, so creams, gel, injections, and pellets. Those are the options for us.
You can also get troches.
You can troches too.
Oh,
but-
right, the
Yeah,
little-
sublingual.
But I would say
Sublingual.
their half-life is pretty fast.
Anything that first passes the liver
Yeah.
is a little less reliable. But
I did a troche and it moved through real quick. In hindsight, looking at labs, I was like, oh wow, I'm not maintaining this.
and
Okay,
whenever
I want to circle back to how people access this, should they want to. I also want to touch on ways to boost their testosterone naturally.
Yeah.
But first, I just want you guys to give us the pros and cons of these different delivery
ways,
methods.
So I was going to say about topical is that we can't know how every woman is going to absorb it. We know that increased adiposity can affect it. This is why if your provider is giving you an estradiol patch or topical estradiol, we need to follow up with testing because we understand with the topical, we may not actually absorb it. Now, the other thing is, do you have kids? Do you have pets? Like,
If you applying it to your skin.
So you just have to be mindful.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's a deal breaker, but you definitely have to be mindful. And then also, someone's going to be like, I got a rash. Some people are really sensitive. And we have to
Adhesions.
know what we're using, what is in it. And that's where sometimes...
And that's the con of both the gel and the cream.
Yes, and we have to sometimes go the compounding route. Now, for clarity's sake, for everybody to understand, because there's a lot of people saying compounding pharmacies are not FDA approved. The medications they use are FDA approved, okay? They are FDA approved. It is the way that they're compounding. You have to this is a provider level thing, but you just have to make sure the compounding pharmacy is making homogeneous mixtures and that they have good practices and they're not just like, hey, hormones make money, just dole it out kind of business.
Well, with testosterone, it has to be compounded. We do not have an FDA approved form for women. But in my working with patients who started testosterone, I like to see them start with creams or a gel, and then test about 6 to 8 weeks later to kind of see how they're feeling and doing. When we start to mess with things like injections and pellets, it can be, we can accidentally overdo it.
How long does an injection last and how long does a pellet last?
Usually you're injecting twice a week.
And people are injecting themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. And what does that look like? Is that just like a little poke in the
butt?
belly or the butt?
Yeah, basically.
I was like not into needles at all. I was like, how am I gonna? Because I injected and I do it once
needle.
a week. It was the scariest thing. I went in, I went out, and I was gonna start on a Sunday. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll start on Monday. Then I'll start on a Tuesday. I was just so scared that I was gonna do it wrong. I watched all the videos, all these nurse videos on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And then once I did it, I'm like, the way that I felt, it was instant.
What did you feel?
Amazing. Are you kidding? She's like, oh, you start new projects. I'm like, I got 5 new podcasts, like,
wow.
It really changed my desire. All of a sudden I felt like better than I did in my 30s. I'll just say that. Completely night and day.
And so how did you access it? Who were you working with and how did give us the...
So all of my doctors are out of network because my in-network doctors do not approve, nor do they prescribe, nor does my insurance cover any of it. So I have a couple of different doctors, one specifically, my GYN, that prescribes it and I get it from a compounding pharmacy. Yeah.
And if you don't mind sharing, like how much has this cost you?
With the hormones and everything? Yeah, this is my big gripe with the system. Like I have access and I have resources. I can afford to spend $200 to $300 every 2 months.
Yeah.
To get a 60-day.
And that probably doesn't include the initial consult
it doesn't include,
the doctor.
Absolutely. That's going to be another couple $100.
Yeah.
And then I have to do labs, which is another couple $100. So I'm spending out of pocket anywhere from $2,500 to maybe $3,000 because I'm also getting different opinions. I like having different opinions, especially after my experience of not being believed. I have the resources to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go to this doctor. I'm going to get my labs done through my provider, and I'm going to go through an outside physician, and I'm going to go to this expert that I know. And then I'm going to weigh them all out, and then I'm going to compare everybody's answers once I have it. And I've been doing that for the last couple of years. But because of that, it's what has put me on this huge crusade of creating information and accessibility, because people that I know can't afford to do what I do.
Well, so here's the issue. Like so let's get in.
We need to talk about raising testosterone naturally, right?
Let's talk about it because
totally,
it is
100%.
expensive. I would say,
but I think
how much your patients, it's usually $200 to $300 for a 90-day supply, give or take a lot of what's on the market.
And that's a cream gel, or if you're going to self-administer a shot. Kind of same.
And troches too. Troches are around that.
A troche is the
one that you put on a suboral, yeah.
If someone at home who's interested in pursuing this, and then we are going to get into raising your testosterone naturally, which everyone can access, without figuring out how you hack the system, since we have to, should we want to, like where would you send people if they don't have a doctor in their community who they can see?
The Menopause Society, there's a lot of prescribers of testosterone. Like testosterone we're sitting here singing the praise. It is not without side effects. Like you want to lose your hair on your head, you want to grow hair on your chin, chest, abdomen, you want acne like a, prepubescent boy whose testosterone levels are being totally jacked up. Like if you're applying it to the vulva, your clitoris can become enlarged and it can be clitomegaly. So now your clitoris, that sounds fun, but it's looking like a little penis. And that sometimes is very distressful for women. And then, there's also alterations that can happen to your cholesterol, to your red blood cells. So your
lipids.
You have to absolutely work with a provider. And this is where it's people are I will run into patients who are like, I don't want follow-ups for hormone testing. And these people online tell me you can just go off symptoms. And I'm like, there are things beyond hormones that we do have to track and test, and that we have to make sure, like, we're not just looking at you. This is what confuses me. Women are like, they've reduced us to our hormones our whole life. But when it comes to prescriptions, I'd like you to reduce me to my hormones and forget about the rest of my body. Like, we have to be tracking you when it comes to hormones. There are side effects, like with any medication. So I just want to caution people, because med spas do pop up, stuff happens. We see them start dispensing all kinds of things. There's a big GLP craze, and we're about to see a sarcopenic obesity kind of epidemic. They won't be obese, they'll just have no muscles, and we're gonna have a lot of problems from that. I want to caution people, because capitalism will capitalism, right? And we have to be very wise as consumers. But I would say,
as a wise consumer, given those side effects, if you are in a small town or wherever, and you can access tests, your hormone tests, you can go to whoever, and hopefully covered by your freaking insurance, and get tests to monitor your side effects, which would then not just be your hormone panel, but it would be then your cholesterol. And you would want to watch, has your cholesterol changed after you started taking testosterone? What else would they be monitoring on themselves to make sure? I mean, again, like, I'm just, people are out there trying to do inflammatory markers.
Hormones, like looking at, again, test, don't guess. I would run a full metabolic panel. I would be looking at nutrients. I would run the full entire panel I would normally run when a woman, about 8 weeks to 9 weeks after starting hormone replacement therapy. I would just be looking at all of the biomarkers, but particularly looking at
what
hormones.
I'm just saying is, for anybody who is trying to figure this out on their own, like, you're going to know if you're growing a beard. If you're starting to get, like,
or more ragey, people will
adolescent
notice.
Boy acne, or losing your hair. Okay, that's pretty obvious. But I do think it is really important, because all of the exciting benefits of elevating your testosterone are, like, it definitely makes me want to go out and get a syringe. But I do think it's really important for people to be really cognizant of those, especially the most important markers, and that would be...
First, I want to caution that the hair loss is not always obvious.
Or the acne.
If you're going down the DHT, dihydrotestosterone pathway, you will get miniaturization of the hair follicle. So it's going to be slow creep over time, that the hair shaft itself is getting thinner and thinner. So I don't want, some people absolutely shed hair, but other people would be like, a year later, my hair feels thinner. That's a sign. So I just don't want people to be like, oh, it's just going to be really obvious.
And it could also just be a sign of perimenopause and menopause. That's what happens too.
Well, and that's a 5-alpha reductase activity has gone up, and you're converting into DHT. And though that's where times where spironolactone might come in, or we're looking at things, like I said, saw palmetto when we were having lunch, zinc. There's other ways that we can help negate that pathway into DHT. But no, you should never just be like, oh, follicle miniaturization is normal. There's a reason why.
I would say that I think what Jolene and both of us are trying to say is that it's really difficult with some of these hormones, particularly testosterone, to be trying to manage this yourself.
The one thing that I will say too, using the testosterone after about 8 months, again, could have been a different compounding pharmacy that I got my testosterone from. But when I did my panel after that, my cholesterol was elevated. Hadn't changed my diet. I hadn't done anything different. And of course, my in-network doctor was like, let's put you on statin. And I'm like, no. Give me 6 weeks. Let me take a couple of things out of my diet. And I did, and it went back to normal. So it was diet and also a dose. I scaled my dose back, and that alleviated the issue. But again, I have 3 different doctors that I'm consulting with. I'm not doing this on my own. I am doing my best to mitigate the risk, because again, the risk reward assessment needs to be there. I have a heart murmur, so I also have a heart condition I have to be very mindful of taking something like testosterone. But again, it's like being able to have the conversations and have the knowledge and have it be out there for people to ask the questions, to feel empowered to question their doctors. I think that that's really the main goal.
But here's the thing I'll tell you. If someone is prescribing testosterone, because like someone with a DEA license, it feels like Big Brother's watching me, right? Like there is this like, I want to do right by my patient. That's my main drive. Maybe you don't feel like that's what your doctor's like main drive is, but they are going to make sure they're monitoring you because there's a whole nother body. And so that's something I think, even if we have this conversation, I'm like, man, that's one thing. If you are looking for someone to do hormone therapy, menopause hormone therapy, finding someone who prescribes testosterone is going to be someone who monitors a lot more closely.
Or should be.
I mean, I feel like there's less of us who prescribe testosterone that you often find that other providers were just really cautious in using it. And not because it's big, bad, and dangerous. It's because this is not FDA approved. It requires a DEA license. We also, we know there can be side effects. There's things that we have to monitor. And we don't have something that's just for women that's been studied in women. And this is what you give in women. And we know this is the exact protocol and the dose, like you just said. And it's such a beautiful example of I started it. I felt great. Everything was going great. Got my lab markers, and those were not great. You can't know that, right, from living in your body, but coupling it with the information of I was feeling great and this, and then I had to dial back and make some dietary changes is so important for women to hear because you have value in bringing your data to the doctor, but the doctor has to be looking at your labs. And as, Marisa went to answer the lab question and you're like, well, but that's you. And I'm like, it is a lot of labs and it's a lot of pieces we have to put together and look at how everything is fitting together in this full picture of when you're prescribing this. It's not as easy of just saying, your testosterone reached this level and it's fine. And therefore your cholesterol's here and it's fine because it's well, but what symptoms are you having? And then what are we seeing? And then we got family history. I love that you have a cardiologist because I think cardiologists should actually be trained in prescribing hormone therapy because they always are working with menopausal women. Always.
Well, and a lot of HRT is going to profoundly impact your overall cardiometabolic health. And so the two go hand in hand. And I think anytime you're working with a really great provider, and I get that accessibility is an issue for so many women, but that we are looking at symptoms, we're looking at labs, we're looking at your goals, we're looking at your health history, and we're putting all of that together. So as things shift over time, we can make changes with you.
I want to make sure that people walk away from listening to this with having this question answered. If you, we've agreed, don't go out to a compounding pharmacy or some TikTok, advertisement and just buy a testosterone syringe and
definitely if it's on social media, don't do it.
We're agreeing, don't do that. But if you look at your symptoms and you're like, I really feel like I'm a candidate and I have a doctor, but they are not informed about this. They're not interested particularly in supporting me on this, but I can press them to do X, Y, and Z tests before, during as follow-ups. Besides a hormone panel, and besides now, as we've talked about, our cholesterol lipids. To see if that, our lipids, do a lipid panel to see if that's, what else would you be like, hey doc, I know you're not prescribing this, but these are the things I really need you to work with me on. I need you to do these tests and help me track this over time to make sure that I'm responding well to this therapy that I'm doing on my own reconnaissance. I know you're not prescribing it, but I need you to be my partner in making sure that I'm adapting well. So what else would it be? Hormone panel, lipid panel.
Vitamin D.
Should have been checked before they even considered prescribing.
Exactly. Vitamin D, highly sensitive CRP. We want to look at fasting blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C. You always want to be looking at the blood sugar situation, a metabolic panel. And I would be looking at some other nutrient deficiencies as well, because that could be a driver of testosterone issues. Those would be
like if it's low, so we can get into that.
Yeah. Oh, and a full complete blood panel.
Complete blood count.
I just assume, I'm always just make assumptions.
It's usually in every panel that we're running, right? And people are like, why are you running this again?
A complete blood panel with differential. So that's looking at
a complete blood. So write that down, people. Yes. Write all these things down. If you are going to try and really press for your own care, you need to push your doctor to do all these things and agree to monitor you, even if they are not an advocate for you in testosterone.
Yeah, you don't really have to push on these ones either.
Yeah,
CBC,
no, really.
Lipids, like all the things
these are all
that
standard.
we just these are standard. What might not be standard is the free testosterone, sex hormone globulin, the DHEA sulfate, and the DHT. These things might not be standard, but everything else annually is typically covered by your insurance, and it should be something. If you are listening to this and you are like, I'm already in my 40s, I haven't had any of this testing done, go now. Don't walk, run, get it. Because just like Rosie said, she was feeling great. Everything was great, but she was laying down plaque in her heart. That's what we see when we have that elevated cholesterol. So you cannot see everything and feel everything. You have to have more data.
Yeah,
and I have a history of heart conditions
it's those
too.
silent killers, right? That we can pick up on labs, or we can pick up on a DEXA,
And we know that cardiac problems are the number one killer of women. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's
Heart
correct.
disease? Yes, that
Yes.
that blew my mind when I read that.
Doesn't get a whole month, but it's out there.
yeah, it doesn't
All
get a
right,
whole month.
so let's
You're right.
get into naturally raising our
Yay.
tea. Let's have it.
Testosterone is a build you up hormone, so I want to celebrate it. And so a couple things that we can do to help boost our testosterone levels naturally: working out, being physically active. That's going to be really important here.
Building muscle mass specifically, right?
Yeah, building
Absolutely.
muscle
More
mass.
than
So
cardio.
lifting those weights.
Same is true
Yeah.
for men too.
Yeah.
So if you are someone and you're like, we are kind of living a sedentary lifestyle, bring your partner along with you to the gym because both of your testosterone will benefit.
Yes. So lift the weights, but also I think being physically active is really beneficial in general. But yeah, pick up the weights. Next is going to be eating protein. Eggs are a great source of protein for testosterone, but making sure that you're getting an adequate amount of protein in your diet every single day, that's going to be huge. Eating
25,
foods-
25, 25.
Yeah, 25. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then vitamin D, checking that vitamin D, making sure you have adequate vitamin D levels are going to be important.
And what's that interface there between vitamin D and testosterone?
I mean, it's a booster.
The thing about vitamin D is that we understand it gets to play two roles, a vitamin and a hormone.
So we just want to make sure that you have adequate levels. We know that vitamin D can boost testosterone levels. Next is watch those endocrine disruptors. So even think takeout food, plastic, like drinking out of plastic water bottles. We talked about.
I know, I love takeout. I love good takeout food too, but
I know.
I'm always big
But
mad
it's
when I get
plastic
like my pho
containers.
and it's a plastic
Yeah.
container and I'm like, why
And
are you
it's
hating my
melting.
hormones? Yeah.
And it's like you can see the lids melting at the top.
Yes.
Like that went somewhere
Mm-hmm.
into your food. So testosterone does not love takeout. So if you're taking out food, 3 to 4 times a week, something to want to scale back. But also the shampoos, the personal care products, all those things, those endocrine disruptors will lower testosterone. And then the big insidious kind of elephant in the room, which we talked about at length in the last episode, is stress. Chronic stress will tank your testosterone as Wah, wah. Are we surprised though? No surprise at all. So those would be the big needle movers for helping to boost testosterone. And then lastly, it's going to be sex. Get it on. Having sex.
Regular sex.
Yeah, regular sex.
Positive feedback loop.
Yes.
Yeah. What I would add to this, so this is all a great way to get your testosterone up, but I had said to you before, like, what if your hormone binding globulin is elevated? So this is where the exercise is a 2-for-1 for you, because not only can it help you get your testosterone levels up, but it can help shift the sex hormone binding globulin and bringing it down. That is if your free testosterone is low and being bound up by that. And so what we know about sex hormone binding globulin that can happen, and again, can happen in both men and women, is more visceral adiposity, which I feel like we didn't really clarify in previous episodes. So I'm going to take this moment and do it now. When we talk about visceral adiposity, yes, this is belly fat, but this is deep belly fat that has nothing to do with aesthetics. You may care about your aesthetics. You may be like, I don't like the way my belly looks. Fair. But what I care about is it's inflammatory. It is leading to insulin resistance, and it can be tanking your testosterone. And so I think this is really important to understand, because we often see that people who cohabitate together form the same habits together. And we are seeing a crisis of men having low testosterone. And part of that is because they live sedentary lifestyles and they're not physically active. They're losing muscle. They're putting on this belly fat, and that is causing cardiometabolic shifts in the wrong direction. And then I will say the endocrine disruptors, right, is like also the piece, not to put it all on men. So it is really, really important that it doesn't matter who you cohabitate with. We talk about influencers these days, and like, influencers are so bad and so dumb. Home influencers are the best. And women tend to be those influencers. They're the ones who get their family eating better, moving better, exercising more. And so in this moment, as you listen to this, act of rebellion. what can you do to do one more act of movement in a day? You know, we've talked about walking after meals. Is it doing squats on every single hour? Is it taking the stairs, parking further away? It can be the little things. It doesn't always have to be the gym. But if you're struggling with your testosterone, it needs to be the gym at least 2 to 3 days a week of strength training.
And it can be in your home. It doesn't have to be in the gym. You could just have, 15-pound weights, 12-pound weights, 20-pound weights in your room, in your garage. We're talking 20 to 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be this whole thing that feels impossible to get to the gym and back.
Inexpensive and a whole time, a huge time commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about the testosterone? Yeah, it's a question about being able to get the right kind. This is a question that I get all the time. Like, which one is better? Is it just like a bio-individual type of decision? Is it a doctor decision? Is one easier? Is it better to start? Because all I'm questioning is, well, why didn't I start with this rather than just going straight for the shot,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've got a needle
question.
phobia and every time you look at that testosterone, you're spiking your cortisol, like what are we doing to you? Not everyone wants to inject themselves.
Or you have children and you can't apply a topical cream because you're going to get it on them. I really loved the idea of a topical estrogen, but I was like, I have a 4-year, I can't do that.
What about like inner thigh? What about your partner?
I did
Is your
inner thigh
partner
too,
getting
but
exposed
then I was wearing
to that?
shorts.
Okay, so here's the thing about estriol or estradiol used vaginally is we know it's not going systemic enough to affect women's hormones and to alter them. So it used to be like a decade ago that we would be like, have sex, then apply your estrogen. We're worrying about it less. However, if you have a partner who does have high estrogen levels, and this is presumably a male partner, because something else is going on with them, like we do have to look at like, okay, like, could this be the anomaly and like we should be more concerned about this? But for the most part, we're finding it's not enough to move the needle in women. And so we're less concerned about, I'm not telling you like put your cream on and go right into having sex, because there's a whole nother thing with like lube and fluids and like all this stuff going on.
Discomfort, like it needs to be comfortable as well.
And it'll break down condoms.
When I got my gel, it did say that it was ideal to put it on in the morning, and that you needed to wait like 2 hours before you exercised.
So we don't want to sweat it off.
We don't sweat it off.
Also,
Or in
that's
the
a great
shower.
point. We test testosterone in the morning. So there's certain times of your cycle where if you're cycling, I want to test your hormones. When it comes to testosterone, I care less about the day of the cycle and more about can we catch it in that 8 a.m. And I'll probably do like an ACTH and a cortisol at that time as well, because you got to go to the lab anyways in the morning. We're going
just get
to
it
check
done.
some
Yeah.
things out. Well, I was going to say thyroid's the other one that like if you have any other hormones that feel out of balance, we should be screening your thyroid. I think the biggest disservice being done in the perimenopause and menopause conversation right now is that we've seen people who just have stepped into the arena of prescribing now hormone therapy and it's changed their life. However, hypothyroidism is so common after age 35, and so many of the symptoms that look like low estrogen may also be low thyroid. So we have to be running a whole test panel for thyroid as well and making sure that's okay.
Agreed.
Got it.
But I mean, to your point, Rosie, yeah, it's not a one size fits all. Again, as Jolene mentioned, maybe you're getting a rash because of an adhesive, or you've got children, or again, you've got a phobia to needles. And so it's really working with the patient and figuring out what's going to work for you. And also, what can we use that we can finesse? What can we play with? Yeah, I want women to have a little bit of flexibility and fluidity in terms of kind of playing with things to see what works for you.
And you can finesse, obviously, the gel or cream day by day. You can finesse the injectable week by week.
But not
But
your
then
pellets.
the pellet is 4 months in.
Oh, by the way, someone's absolutely going to hate us for saying like, oh, this is the problems with pellets, even though I think we've been pretty fair in saying there's problems with everything. That if somebody is saying, no, pellets are the end all be all, and anyone who villainizes them or talks any bad about them at all, they don't know what they're talking about. They start all this stuff. Go check what they do, and they tend to only offer pellets.
And it's expensive and it can be painful. And again, once they're in, they're not coming out.
But the plus is just it's one and done and for 4 months. Is there any
but
other
what if you're
plus?
losing your hair?
Yeah.
What if you are that person who
Or what
does
if you're
start
breaking
shedding?
out? Or
Yeah,
what
what
if
do
you're
you what do you
having-
do? You wait it out?
We're gonna add some more drugs.
Yeah.
How many pharmaceuticals would you like me to prescribe?
Or even it could be
Capitalism.
I could let you wait it out, but I'm also of the like mindset, like when you get the miniaturization of the follicle, that's irreversible hair loss in a lot of cases. So like, I want to stop that train as soon as possible. So I might be like, let's get some spironolactone. We may even consider minoxidil, like start doing other things. So people listening, I'm not like, oh yeah, I just love to prescribe drugs. But I'm like, I know the mental health toll that hair loss takes on women, and we don't talk about it enough. So if it's things like that start coming up, it's like, okay, let's do something. This is temporary. This is a short period of time until these levels start to even out. But that's a problem with pellets is sometimes they go in and the testosterone spikes. And we don't have great studies on women and testosterone prescribing. And it's what all of us want more of so that we can have more of that cookie cutter algorithm that's like, we know that 85% of the time we're going to get it right. And then we know what to do in the other people who have paradoxical effects, who respond differently, because those always exist. So for people listening, drug trials cherry pick people, they get the outcome that they want. That's why they pick the people that they want. And you see this and you're like, wait, this drug's great. The real trial starts when it gets out into the population and we monitor it for the next 10 years. So if you're someone who has an adverse effect, to any pharmaceutical, that doesn't mean that like you're making it up or there's something totally wrong with you. It's expected. We have a bell curve and we expect the trial showed us who falls in the middle. And guess what? You might be an outlier, but you're still in the bell curve of normal.
And it also doesn't necessarily mean that drug is bad. Mm-hmm. It just means you had an adverse
effect.
And
it doesn't mean it's bad for all your friends.
Right.
And I think this is a tricky thing that women are doing these days. They're like, I tried this hormone and it was bad and it didn't work for me. Therefore, it shouldn't work for any of you. And then on the flip side, there's women who are like, oh my God, estrogen changed my life. What the hell is wrong with you? Why would you not use estrogen? You should be on this too. And I think everybody just needs to mind their business and mind their body.
Yeah. Yes,
except for this podcast, you should listen
to us.
Well, and
but nobody's telling you what to do here.
Yeah,
We're not like, this is what you have to do, and this is what's true for your body.
Another sign just to be on the lookout for, and this is what a lot of my patients have talked about when they've been on pellets or they've been on an injectable for testosterone, is feeling ragey.
Yes, I've heard that too.
Yeah. A pimple will pop up. They'll feel a little bit more rage. That's a reason to go and rerun labs.
It's always oily skin first, by the way. Yeah. It's always oily skin first, and then here comes the pimple, and then like here comes the mood, and here comes the hair loss. Like
it really makes like classic masculinity look really bad. It's like oily, pimply, raging, and bald.
So I have a 12-year-old boy right now, and I'm watching this thing take place, and it's not that like anything is wrong with him or this is bad or anything. It's not just as our ovaries have to learn the dance with the HPA of our brain and learn that dance. This is why I said to you, menarche, and for 2 years we might have irregular periods because they're learning the dance. Testes are doing the same thing. And so some days you're just like, whoa, there's all this testosterone, and other days there's not. So we got this. And by the way, men tend to be not just ragey, but really emotional, and crying as well can be a symptom of this excess testosterone. But the thing I will say about these teenage boys, when the acne is really bad and the oily skin is really bad, and like everything that Marisa covered in terms of like with your diet, with your exercise, sitting on video games, binging out on Doritos, chugging down some Coke, like all of that is going to make you less than optimal. And while older, you may be like, where's my testosterone? Younger, you may be like, why is it so dysfunctional, testosterone?
Balance, balance, balance. All right, darlings, let's take a few questions. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. These are all completely testosterone related, but tangential. We covered this, but I think it's a good thing to kind of end on. How do I know if it's low testosterone or if it's low estrogen?
The way I would do that or find that out is symptoms and testing. Testing will give us a lot of information as to what is going on inside of your body.
Okay, so just give me the top 3 symptoms for each. I mean, we really covered this.
Sorry, but I'm like, estrogen, like, is it cold flashes or is it hot flashes? Is it itchy ears or itchy vagina? Is it you're having more UTIs and you're having vaginal dryness, or is that all your skin?
Anxiety?
Yeah, is it itching? Like, is it that you're noticing more fine lines and wrinkles that is not approximate of like what you should have? Are your joints super achy and you hurt every time you're at the gym? Like, women need to understand that you are super, super complex. And so once again, please work with an expert.
Yes, please. And important to note that
refusing to
these
give me buckets.
these are human hormones. These are whole body hormones. And so they are having a profound impact across the board. And it can be a yes and. It can be low testosterone and low estrogen.
Right.
But what are the three? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, pin you down. No. But that's the thing that conventional medicine got so wrong is they said
they put us
you're
in
gonna
that
have
bucket.
hot flashes, night sweats,
Low libido,
and
vaginal
low libido,
dryness.
or vaginal dryness, and that's it. That's perimenopause. That's all you have to worry about. That's it. And women are like, why do I have burning mouth syndrome? Why am I getting feeling like someone's electrocuting me every few minutes?
Or
like
sore joints.
Or sore joints.
Frozen shoulder.
Yeah.
Like all of these things that like we are experiencing that we were told we were crazy, right? We were told like that's not real. That's not.
Okay,
what
we're not going to talk about
perimenopause is.
gaslighting on menopause right now because we're going to stay with testosterone.
Okay.
And we're not about to gaslight you by giving you only 3 symptoms.
Amen.
Everybody likes 3 takeaways, though.
I know.
It's very feng shui.
Wait, I've got
but-
another one for you. Reel it in. All right, here's an interesting one. Can overtraining lower testosterone?
If you overstress the system, again, we talked about chronic stress and overactivating that hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Yeah, you can overtrain yourself into lower hormones.
So literally like overtraining at the gym, overstressing a muscle will affect your HbA?
Overstressing the body.
Yeah, so I think the most classical example that we can look at is what used to be called female athlete triad, assuming this audience is even interested in perimenopause, that's how they'll know it as, which is a functional hypothalamic amenorrhea that we develop. So we undereat and we overexercise.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, eat right and exercise? Like you just need to eat less and exercise? Yeah, that very advice that doctors gave us can lead to you losing your period and your ovarian function. And I told you in an episode before, and I may have said it again because I am a broken record, that about 50% of your testosterone is going to be coming from your ovaries. And while you have your backup, Mike.
And your adrenals.
Well, you got your backup, Mike, which is your adrenal glands to come in and be like, I got you. Ovaries not doing your job. I got you. Except that the very system that you're stressing is the adrenal system, which produce testosterone. So yes.
Bad feedback loop.
Bad feedback loop. Yeah, you can burn yourself out. But no, if you're overworking that bicep, that's not going to be the thing.
Right.
No.
It's not a muscle strain
it's
issue.
Too many Orange Theory classes and F45 classes.
Yeah, it's the 1 hour on the treadmill, 1 hour weightlifting, go to the Pilates class next, and go, because your doctor told you that you just have to move more. And this is how women end up messing up their hormones even more.
So it's really a question more of over exercising that can deplete your hormones rather than overweight training.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Because I think that's what her question was really like,
overworked.
can you weight train too much? It was more like, can you over exercise?
Rosie, you did the same thing? Overworked?
Yeah.
I mean, my testosterone levels tanked when I was overtraining. Too many Orange Theory classes. I was competing with 20-year-olds when I was like 37 years old. And yeah, that's what happened. It
was fun though, wasn't it?
Hormone labs looked like a hormone hot mess.
Wow, that's so interesting. All right, I got one more. Is there an age to stop using testosterone if you start?
No. At this point, there's no real reason. I mean, never has there been to stop hormones. Like, what are we doing? Like, we used to say, be on a hormone therapy, but only 5 years postmenopausal. So you get 5 more years of feeling okay. And then we're going to just take that from you, right? Because that's the only way to maintain the benefits.
Or statin for life.
There's so many meds that are like that. Hormones are the same. Will your dosage remain the same your whole life? No, maybe not. Maybe you'll be still having to finesse things and change things as life progresses. Things change. So I don't want everyone to think whatever I start today is what it is for the rest of my life. But really, I mean, we have finally seen a large shift to stop telling women just discontinue testosterone. But if there's a situation where let's say, we were supplementing with testosterone and then we were working on underlying issues and you do bring your testosterone back, that's a great time to stop testosterone. You're going to be able to start producing it. You want to try to dial back because of what you've tried. We can absolutely do that.
Cool. Right on. All right. Do you guys have any lingering questions you'd like us to percolate on for future episodes?
I mean, I would love to know when we're going to get an FDA-approved testosterone for women.
I can't answer that for you.
Exactly.
No, but I think I will say I do have a lot of hope, as much as people like to hate on the current administration and pretend that absolutely no wins can happen, whatever, because we just hate those guys, right? We did actually see that there was an FDA panel to revisit the black box warning on estrogen and to revisit these things. And so I think there is hope in that. And so as I've challenged women in other episodes, like, get loud. Because one thing I will say about this administration is they do pay attention to social media. They do pay attention to what constituents are saying, and they are reacting to it, which is part of how this whole FDA let's revisit estrogen came about. So you do have power to take to social media, share your story, share your experience, and start asking these questions.
Yeah, the more we're having these conversations, the more that we're demanding better for ourselves, we're moving things forward.
Well, I would really like to see more of us come together in it, especially when it comes to having these conversations and not shitting on each other. If I had a bad experience with testosterone and I'm telling everybody else, like, don't do this, I think it's really important for us to empower each other to ask questions, because we're not asking enough questions.
Yeah, I love this idea that came up in a previous episode of encouraging women out there to start the equivalent of a book group, like book/health circle. Get informed with, from one expert to another month by month, but then also really talk about what you're trying and what you're experiencing in your own bodies. Like, what a cool book club that would be.
It is super cool. Like I'm going to be featured in a November book club that focus on health books. It's
amazing.
Just so fun. It's so fun.
Oh, good. So someone's already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of you follow suit.
Following suit.
All right. That's it for testosterone. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the Luminescence podcast. Our show is powered by Commune, which is an all-in-one course platform for living a happy, healthy, and for Luminescence fans, horny life. Many of the almost 200 courses on Commune address women's holistic wellness specifically, including more wisdom from Dr. Jolene Brighton, yoga and breathwork classes from yours truly, and dozens of other classes with leading female health experts and teachers. So just go to onecommune.com to learn more. That is ONE commune.com. Also, wherever you're watching or listening to the show, be sure to subscribe and please, please, please leave a comment. You will be helping us to shape the future of this show. All right, that's all for now. I'll see you next week.